What's up guys, Rogue9 here, and today I can finally bring you the first Loadout meta video breaking down the guns of the new operators of Operation Burnt Horizon, and why don't we start things off with the soon-to-be released defender, Max Goose aka Mozzie. Mozzie comes with two different full-auto primaries, the P10 RONI and the Commando 9, and before we dive into the stats, let's maybe take a bit of a closer look at these weapons, specifically the RONI, because if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I like details, and the details of the RONI, yeah, they don't quite add up. You see, the RONI system exists in real life. It is basically a carbine shell that allows the user to mount a regular pistol into it, thereby creating a quasi-SMG. We see the same concept in action with Smoke's FMG9, which is basically a Glock 18 mounted into a folding stock and furniture. Now, the issue I have with the P10 RONI is essentially the name. The P10C already exists in the game as one of the weapons for Clash, and it looks like this. Compare that to the real-life CZ P10C, and we can see that the model is accurate and the gun even comes with the 15-shot magazine capacity of the real-life gun. The pistol inside the RONI, though, does not look like this, and it has a higher mag capacity of 19 bullets. The problem we have here is that this is in fact not a P10, but instead just a plain old CZ P9. Perfectly modeled after the real gun and even accurately including the higher capacity mags. The only difference is that the in-game version has been tinkered with to make it fully automatic, while regular P9s are semi-auto only. But fair enough. P9, P10, it's a minor detail. Let's just call the thing a RONI and we're all good. And with that, we can finally get to the stats. As always, here's the overall comparison, and at first glance, it looks like we probably have a couple of well-balanced and viable guns on our hands. Various strengths on both sides. Let's explore further. In terms of damage, the advantage clearly goes to the Commando 9. It is in fact the third most powerful SMG in the game in terms of damage per shot, and exactly as strong as Caveira's M12 and Vigil's K1A, with the added advantage of a relatively decent fire rate. The damage drop-off curve for the RONI is pretty weak overall and exactly the same as those of Alibi's MX4 Storm and Valkyrie's MPX. Only 3 SMGs are weaker than these, the Scorpion, P90 and Vector. When it comes to fire rate, sure, 750 is definitely below average for the SMG class, the average being around 820 right now, but for such a relatively hard-hitting gun as the Commando 9, that's pretty damn not bad. On the other hand, what the RONI lacks in damage per shot, it makes up in fire rate, which is again the exact same as that of the MX4 Storm and 4th best overall. So that gives the RONI exactly the same damage output profile as the MX4. It has the same damage at all ranges and the same fire rate. The guns are not quite carbon copies though, because the MX4 has a much greater capacity of 30+1 bullets, while the RONI has much better recoil. But enough about Alibi and her gun, this video is about Mozzie. Interestingly, when we combine the fire rate and damage stats for his guns, this gives us mixed results for the damage output per second. The Commando is a bit better at close range, with one of the best DPS stats for defender SMGs, only beaten by Bandit's MP7, while at longer ranges of 28 meters and above, a tiny advantage goes to the RONI. What does this mean in practice? Well, the Commando consistently requires one less bullet to down or kill at short and long range when hitting body shots against any armor type, but when consistently hitting the legs, the advantage can be 1, 2 or even 3 shots less depending on the armor and distance. And despite the significantly faster fire rate of the RONI, the time to down or kill advantage at close range up to 18 meters remains with the Commando in all but one of the armor type and strike location combos. At ranges of 28 meters plus, the RONI has slightly better times for body shots, but pretty significantly worse stats for leg shots. So my conclusion when it comes to the killing capability of these two guns is that the overall stats are in favor of the Commando 9, although not by much. Higher damage means consistently fewer shots to down and kill, and decent fire rate still results in better TTKs, but of course the one-hit kill headshots of Siege give the advantage to high fire rate guns, and that would swing the scale back over towards the RONI. If you are a very experienced player at plat level or above, you may be hitting mostly headshots, so the RONI could be for you. If you only play occasionally or you are new to the game and you end up with mostly body shot kills, then from a pure kill efficiency perspective, the Commando might be your best bet. But there are of course also a few other stats to consider. 6 extra bullets in the Commando is no joke, and while 25+1 is still below average, 19+1 is definitely more into that region where you could actually end up losing gunfights by running out of ammo at the wrong time. Reload times are interesting again. Both guns come in below the current class average of 2.9 and 2.3 seconds for full and tactical reloads, and while the Commando has the best full reload time amongst all SMGs, the RONI has the best tactical reload of them all. Reload times are definitely strengths of both guns, and I guess that makes sense since they both also have below average capacities. For aim down sight times, my expectation was that since both guns feature the standard SMG drop-off distances, they would also both have the standard SMG ADS time of 300 milliseconds. But that is once again not the case. Just like Kaid's 9mm AUG during Operation Wind Bastion, Mozzie's Commando 9 has the slower 450 milliseconds ADS time of the rifle classes. For Kaid, this feature definitely never made any sense because the AUG is really weak overall, and he was given the regular 300 millisecond time in a patch shortly before the end of the season. Is this slow ADS time on the Commando on purpose or by mistake? Hard to tell really, since the damage per shot of this SMG is almost up there with some of the weaker assault rifles. So I think it definitely makes more sense to have the slow ADS in this case, although the damage drop-off between 18 and 28 meters definitely tells us that this is still an SMG. I guess we'll have to wait and see. There have been a lot of quick changes to the test servers for this season, so maybe we'll see this fixed before the season even goes live, who knows? When it comes to hipfire spread, the advantage overwhelmingly lies with the Commando, whether you're standing still, kneeling, prone, standing and shooting full auto, or jogging while shooting. The Commando is on average 38% better than the RONI in all of these cases. There is one exception though. For some reason the hipfire spread while jogging and not shooting is better for the RONI because reasons, I guess. And that leads us last but never least to the recoil. On paper, the recoil for the RONI looks very manageable with the Commando having a somewhat harsher vertical muzzle climb, but once you factor in the fire rate, in practice they actually feel quite similar. In terms of setup, the RONI does benefit significantly from the first shot recoil reduction of the muzzle brake, but that will leave you with more horizontal dispersion during longer bursts. The compensator gives you the exact opposite benefits by beautifully tightening up your groups but leaving you with a bit of a vertical jump between the first and second shot. So for me personally, the compromise offered by the flash hider looks like a great choice. The first shot recoil jump is pretty much negated, while we still get a bit of long-term reduction in horizontal spread. The vertical grip will of course give you a huge reduction in vertical recoil, making the gun even more manageable, but even the recoil with the angled grip is actually not that bad, so you might want to take advantage of that 180 millisecond ADS time instead. The recoil of the Commando is mostly vertical in nature, so the compensator actually seems to do very little for you. The muzzle brake on the other hand is made for this gun and will help you out a lot. Again, the flash hider is a compromise between the two, but why compromise between useless and great? For me, the muzzle brake wins this contest without a doubt. For the grips, the choice again comes down to better recoil control or better ADS time, and I think that once again both are viable. If you tend to pre-aim before most of your engagements, maybe you won't actually benefit all that much from the angled grip, but if you're comfortable with a little extra recoil, the reduced ADS time can be a lifesaver when suddenly confronted with an unexpected enemy. The choice is yours. As always, I also tested the recoil of my setups in practice, and you can see the results in a side-by-side comparison here. Of course, these tests are highly subjective and will probably be affected by confounding variables such as practice effects, but as expected, the vertical grip trials were somewhat easier to control, while the angle grip ones needed a bit more of a positive drawdown on my mouse to keep the grouping centered. So my summary for controllability of these weapons is that the recoil for both is actually quite good, although the relatively high fire rate will make them a little harder to keep on target compared to many other defender weapons. And even though both end up handling relatively similarly, I would still give the RONI a slight edge here, since the Commando does have a tendency to climb away from you if you aren't quite ready for its recoil. And thus we arrive at the overall conclusion. Mozzie is looking to be a great addition to the defensive lineup of Team Rainbow, not only because of his gadget, but also because of two outstanding primaries. Both of these weapons are great when compared to the rest of the defender lineup, but when it comes to choosing between the two, I would personally conclude that the Commando edges out the win. It hits harder, takes down opponents with fewer hits and mostly shorter times to down or kill, and the larger magazine makes it more forgiving when dealing with multiple opponents. The only downsides are the slightly higher recoil and the questionable ADS time, which may or may not be intentional. But don't get me wrong here, the RONI might come up just a little short in my personal opinion, but it is still a very respectable tool overall. What are your thoughts on Mozzie and his primaries? Have you had a chance to try him out yet? Which guns do you think you will be using more? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video and you think you may have learned something useful, leave it a like. If you didn't like it, there is a dislike button exactly for that purpose, and do feel free to leave a quick comment with feedback about what could be improved in these videos as well. And with that, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next episode.